Hey there, welcome back to the Nourished CEO podcast. Today's episode is a really fun one because it's not just an interview. It's a combo of a real behind the scenes case study and some recorded hot seat coaching happening in real time. I'm sitting down with my client Liz Dornian, and we're breaking down the exact shifts that she's made in her business over the last year. What changed, what finally clicked for her, and what helped her grow in a way that actually fits her personality and values as a consistent CEO. And then we took it to the next level because after we walked through the strategy and the big decisions, the messaging, her offer positioning, her increased pricing, her sales systems, even hiring help, we then pivot into live coaching around something I know that a lot of you are wrestling with: how to make your content more attention grabbing without turning into someone that you don't recognize. How do you stop blending in, stop posting nice content that gets saved but doesn't sell anything, and start creating content that actually moves people to take action without being pushy, manipulative, or cringy? So if you've ever felt like you're stuck between, I want to grow and I don't want to compromise my integrity to do it, this episode is for you. You're going to hear Liz and I talk through the mindset shifts, the strategy shifts, and even the subtle messaging tweaks that can help make your content hit while still feeling like you. All right, so let's get into it. All right, everyone. I'm very, very excited to have with us on the show today Liz Dornian. Welcome to the Nourished CEO podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I invited Liz originally with just the intention of hearing her story about the work we did together last year and to just go over all the changes that she made, which we definitely will. And I also thought this would be a really cool opportunity to also do some recorded mini like hot seat coaching for her, not because she like needs it or anything, but I also know that, Liz was so fun to work with over the last 6 months of last year, and I'm like, I know there's more for her. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that she started putting in place last year that now can be taken to the next level for 2026. To give you guys some context, Liz did take the CEO types quiz and she got the result of consistent CEO. So, Liz, I know that this is all new to you. We didn't have this system in place last year when we were working together, and it wasn't in the original program that you joined when we started a few years ago. But just from like the little bit of exposure that you had so far, what did you see in the results from the consistent CEO that aligned with how you feel like you show up in your business?
Hmm. So you were telling me that it's relational, like very relationship focused and people focused, but maybe a little bit slow moving. And I feel like I'm not the biggest risk taker when it comes to business, and I want to make the smallest changes possible to like get the result that I want. And even so that shows up in my marketing, I think, but also in my content. Like, I know when we were working together, there was a lot of times when you were like, well, this type of content is great. It's getting you, followers and people feeling connected to you, but it's not necessarily like getting you sales, or it's not necessarily speaking to the result that you can get somebody or all that kind of thing. So I think that is definitely my bend, is like, I just want everyone to feel good and like comfortable. And like, I don't really want to be that uncomfortable. And like, I don't want to make any big moves, but I'm really good at like showing up and being consistent and like being kind of oriented towards relationships. So yeah, I thought it was
Hmm.
accurate.
Yeah. Which is funny because, you invested a large percentage of your annual revenue in working with me last year. So for being somebody who
I guess
makes
that's a
slow
risk.
decisions, that is, I would say that definitely on the riskier side. It's not like we hadn't worked together before, but that's a big decision and a big move. So I know that you have it in you to make big moves, but it sounds like your MO generally is to go slower, be more methodical, be more like, let's make some tweaks as opposed to like,
Mhm.
I was joking with Liz before we hit record. I'm like, you're not like me, just blowing up your, 5-year-old program and starting from scratch, like not on a whim. It's not on a whim, I promise you guys. But, it was a very quick like decision and then execution on my part being a decisive CEO. So I think a lot of the people I work with are probably the same type that you are, as far as you care about people, you want to connect with people. you maybe do things a little bit more organically than like super organized or like, strategic, which I want to make sure it's really clear that when we're talking about these CEO types, that there isn't like one type that is better than the others. I know for me personally, like there's certain things that I wish I was better at as the decisive CEO. Like I wish I was better at community and like relationship building. And here I am just like, we're just going and you're either coming with me or you're not. And so everybody's got strengths and everybody's got blind spots. And so what I want to do today with Liz is really talk about, first of all, like the strengths that have helped her to get her business to where it is in the first place. And then the things that we did together last year that were, I would say, mostly blind spot oriented as far as like kind of bringing up the things that weren't really getting attention or putting things in place that you hadn't necessarily thought to put into place because it's not necessarily your natural tendency to think about those things, to create the foundation for what now can grow more sustainably for 2026. So let's rewind back to like summer of 2025, which is roughly the time that we started working together. What even brought you into the coaching container, given that like you were making money or growing your account? Like, it's not like you were just in struggle bus mode and you were
Yeah.
not satisfied with what you were experiencing.
Yeah. So I think I had a really clear sense that I was like, that I did have some blind spots. And so I think that's what I just sort of got to this point where I'm like, I cannot see what I can't see. And I've been doing the same thing. And I think it had been, this is my fourth year in business. So I had been in business like so that was my third year in business. And
Mm-hmm.
I had had 2 years that were basically the same. And I was like, well, I think if I just keep doing this exactly the same way, I'm just going to continue to get the exactly the same result or
Mm-hmm.
worse because things are going to change and, the way that things are, the world and the industry and all that kind of thing are going to change and I'm not going to be keeping up, which yeah, is sort of like a risk with that. I think the consistent CEO is like, I just want to be consistent. I just want to keep it the
I don't
same
want
all the
anything to
time.
change.
I
Like,
don't
what are we
really
doing
want
out here?
yeah, I don't want to like la 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 la. It's all gonna stay the same forever. So anyways, I kind of got to the point where I was like, I think I need somebody else's eyes on this and like recommendations because I could just see that being my trajectory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny. I think sometimes people think, well, if I just keep doing what I'm doing, it'll just get a little better, but they don't think about, yeah, like the world is changing, the industry is changing, the economy is changing, and just doing what you're doing consistently isn't always going to be consistent with your revenue. So, and I know you had also wanted to see the growth. It wasn't just about not shrinking. It was like
Hmm.
you felt like there was more for you and you, for whatever reason, were not achieving that. So,
Yeah.
um, so talk me through, or talk us through, I should say, the biggest changes that you feel we made in your business. And I know we kind of talked a little bit before we hit record, but like what were some of the things that we did that maybe hadn't been in the business before, or were decisions that you made that really needed that push to be able to make the change in a more bold way than maybe what you would normally be comfortable with?
Yeah. So I think the first thing we did was honestly, I think the first thing we did was like clarify even more my messaging around my niche and my target audience, which is weight loss for moms. And I think I was being really broad with that. And like you helped me get really a lot more specific about even the words that I was using and even just like in my Instagram, like that kind of thing. And the
Well, because I think
program
like
name.
even your
Like
your
in
weight. I was just gonna say I don't even remember if you were specifically claiming weight loss as a result in your.
yeah, like at first I had it as like the consistency club and you're like,
Oh no, that's what it was
nobody
called. Oh
wants
my gosh, that's
nobody
perfect
wants
for me.
that. No wonder no one's signing
The
up for that.
consistent CEO
Um
was like, yes, people want that.
yeah,
I want
exactly. I'm like
consistency.
yeah, so that's me. Anyway, so that was a big change. And then we changed the structure of not drastically, like in terms of what I was delivering, although we did add some pieces, like some kind of value added things for clients inside the program. So, just a bit more structure around the delivery. and we increased the price. And I think that that was a huge stuck point for me. Like, I was constantly feeling discouraged because I was looking at my like revenue goals and going, I've never, like, if I want to make this much money, like, I've never been able to sign up that many clients to get that level of income, because that would mean I'm signing up so many clients because my prices were really low. Well, they were
Mhm.
like mid range, right? And I just did not have the confidence to charge more.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm not really sure like what the flip was, but I kind of just recognized like, well, again, like if I just keep doing this, and at that point we were working together, and I was like, well, what am I doing if I'm not going to like follow her advice? I probably should increase my price. And so I did that, and like I don't know, I just it's all just how you think about it. Like now I don't think twice about it. I'm like, yeah, that's just what my program costs. So
Mhm.
take it or leave it kind of thing. But that was a big hurdle. So
Mhm.
those are kind of some of the big pieces, I would say.
Mhm. Well, and I just want to point out, you know, I had totally forgot that your program is called the Consistency Club. So I'm like kind of cracking up that that makes a lot of sense. That tracks very well with a consistent CEO. And so
Oh.
I do think that for you, a lot of that initial work was around positioning of the offer and creating an offer that you felt did command a higher price.
Mhm.
And instead of it being about being consistent, which, as an expert that consistency is valuable, but for what, right? It's like people don't pay $1 to $2,000 to be more consistent. That's just not something
Mhm.
that people are like, "Oh, I just wish I could be more consistent. Let me go drop $1,500 on being more consistent," right? So, I think the positioning was also handicapping your confidence around increasing your price because, like,
Yeah.
truly, if you had just raised the price on selling consistency, that probably would have caused a lot of problems and probably would have sent you kind of like tail between the legs. Never mind. Let me go back to what I was doing. And again, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what exactly would have happened, but I would imagine that really claiming weight loss without restriction for like moms of young kids feels
Mhm.
like a much more tangible, high value problem to solve than just be more consistent.
Right. And like I was already solving that problem. Like it wasn't like I even really changed the problem I was solving. It's
Right.
just talking about that because that's
Mhm.
what people need to hear before they are like, "Oh, I get why I would need that."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just being able to claim something that maybe feels a little bit more, I don't want to say out of your control, because technically somebody being consistent is not within your control either. But I feel like
Mhm.
claiming, I'm going to help you be more consistent, that feels very safe because, I mean, the person would probably have to really screw up to like not increase their consistency within a program. They'd have to basically just not
Mhm.
show up versus claiming weight loss. Like, there's a little bit of skin in the game for you to be like, does this actually work? Does my process
Mhm.
actually help the person get the result that they want? And so, to me, I think that can be a sticking point, especially for the consistent CEO who doesn't want to say they're going to do something then not do it, right? So it's to claim something that, I mean, again, nothing, you can't control your client's outcomes anyway. It doesn't matter how minimal of a claim you make. Again, they have
Mhm.
to log in, they have to come up,
Mhm.
they have to come to a call, right? You can't like come to their house and like lock them in a room, be like, I'm going to force feed you to like do this thing. So there's always a
Mhm.
level of like the person is responsible for the result. But the more tangible and desirable the result is that you're claiming, again, it's like there is that like, ooh, can I really like deliver that in my program for the person?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I mean, at least I had been in business for enough time that I was like, this isn't a lie. Like, this is what I do. And I had
Mhm.
enough like testimonials and stuff like that at that point to be like, okay, if I say this, like, at least I can back up my claim. I think it would have been really hard for me at first to be like, I can help you lose 15 pounds.
Yeah, and
But
you're like,
now
"I've
it's
never done
like,
it, but here we go."
yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, well, look at all these, we've all done it. So I'm pretty sure it works.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And then as far as the sales and marketing side, so, being the consistent CEO, one of the things you're very good at is consistently showing up online. So I know like there's seasons, there's busyness. It's not like you're like every day at 9 o'clock, never missed a day posting something. But, you have a pretty decent sized following on Instagram. I think there's a lot of people who would be very, very happy to hit 10,000 followers on Instagram, right? So that in and of itself is an accomplishment. And I do think being the consistent CEO, that's like your wheelhouse is showing up, being there, being relational, connecting with people. And like that's one thing that I think makes Instagram a great platform for you as a consistent CEO. What would you say were some of the changes we made to how you were showing up on Instagram that maybe would have not been in your normal wheelhouse of content creation?
Yeah. Yeah, like I think when we started working together, I was almost taking this like accidental detour towards influencer world. Like
Mm,
I never wanted to be an influencer and that's never been my goal. I've always thought of Instagram as my like a tool for marketing my own business, not that there's anything wrong with being an influencer. I just that's not what I wanted. But that's all you see. It's kind of you just get influenced and you're like you get influenced by the influencers. Imagine that. And you're like, oh, okay, this is the type of content that's getting views. This is the type of content that's getting engagement. And so I was posting, what I eat in a day or like things that it was just really general. It was just like, oh, like this healthy thing that I like. And I think you kind of had to look at things and we're like, uh, like it's nice people like and I was getting this like this was reflected back to me in my results in my business because people would follow me, they'd join my workshops, they'd like DM me, they'd be having all these interactions with me because they were like, oh, she's so relatable and like I like following you and I like your content. And I would be like, oh, they would get into a weight loss conversation or whatever and it was just like, oh, I just really love your content, thanks so much for posting. And I'd be like, okay, so they just really don't I wasn't portraying like I am somebody that can help you get a certain result. And so
mm-hmm,
that was a change that I really tried to make. And I think I still struggle with that sometimes. Like I think my bend is just towards like the creativity of it and just like putting out content that I feel like making and that is fun for me to make. But I don't like it really I have to put on that hat of like, what's the point of this? Why am I doing this?
yeah.
And so yeah, shifting a little bit towards like I don't know. Yeah, more specifics and more like this is what I can help you achieve and this might be your problem and like I see this problem and here's my approach and just
Mm-hmm.
speaking more like somebody who has an answer to someone's problem, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that you pointed that out because if we go back to the personality, typing, the consistent CEO being more people oriented than task oriented, the task of your social media is to get clients, right? And the
Mhm.
task is let me get sales, let me, yes, grow the account, but I'm sure if you were going to choose between doubling your follower count and doubling your client count this year, I don't think I need to guess which one you would pick, right? So the ultimate goal of what you're doing is to get clients. And I think being the consistent CEO, you probably, for better or worse, may lose the plot a little bit around like, oh, what am I actually here for? Why am I doing this? What is the purpose? What's the task at hand? Versus like, I'm here to
Mhm.
connect. I'm here to like have fun. And again, I think like for for the benefit of that, it's you enjoy it and you don't look at it as like a chore and you don't say I hate this and I'm only doing it because I need to make money kind of thing. So that gives you a lot more longevity. It actually makes your content better. And again, we're not talking about giving Liz a lobotomy and being like, don't ever have fun on Instagram. Like it's all there for sales. But we're talking about, hey, if your natural orientation is I'm just here to have fun and connect with people, and then you're wondering why nobody's buying, and then it's like, okay, why don't we look at how do we create some strategy here so that the purpose of this actually is fulfilled, which is getting you paid clients.
Mhm. Exactly.
So part of what we're going to do today, I asked Liz's permission. I'm like, why don't we look at your Instagram and see what you've been posting lately so that we can like if there's anywhere to course correct, there's some opportunity there. Because again, it can be really easy to slip into what your natural tendency is. Like my natural tendency is if I don't need to show up, I'm just like, goodbye. Like, I don't want to be here. Please don't talk to me. So for me, my issue is like, if there's no immediate task for showing up on social media, I'm like ghosting it. Right. So
Mhm, mhm.
that's why it's like everybody's got their blind spots. Everyone's got their, they need some sort of general course correction so that things can work for them. All of that to say, so you raised your prices, you added an additional level of structure to your offer within the container itself.
Mhm.
Um, Added some resources, features. Do you remind me? Did you add any onboarding stuff? I can't remember if that was something that you did, or did
Yeah,
you already have
not a
that?
lot. I just made it a little bit I just updated the email sequence that goes out initially to people. So that was a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of a change. I added a private podcast so that another big change was that I was selling it as like you because the process is essentially coaching, right? So I need
Mm-hmm.
people like you were saying, I need people to show up, otherwise it's not going to work. And you were like, well, if you're telling them, okay, you can only if this is only going to work if you're free at Wednesday at 12 p.m., well, that's going to be an obstacle, you know? So I had to
Mm-hmm.
find ways. So I added a lot more structure into being able to have more accountability with people and more touch points with clients, even if they can't come to the coaching calls, which has
Okay.
been really successful. So
Yeah.
the private podcast, so recording the calls and like a weekly form that people can fill out to check in with me, a weekly podcast with like Q&A options. So
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually so interesting to me because I think it goes back to that blind spot thing. It's like I am not the type that I'm going to go listen to a recording of someone else getting coached, but I have people that have never once come to a group coaching call, but they renew their they stay on with me because they enjoy listening to the group coaching calls. And I'm like,
Yeah.
whatever. Okay.
Well, okay,
Now
so
my
this is a really important point because again, as a consistent CEO who's very relationship oriented, for you, you're like, I don't want to just listen to somebody else get coached. Like I want the energy of being there live. And so in your mind, not coming to a coaching call, you're like, why would I even do that? But for somebody else, especially if their schedule is affecting their ability to do that,
Mhm,
that's not a strong selling point. And to add insult to injury, if your positioning of the offer is like you need to come to the calls to get value, you're basically reinforcing this already potential objection that is, well, what if I can't come to the calls? And instead of being like, well, here's what you do if you can't come to the calls so you can still get a great experience, you were accidentally being like, then don't buy the program, basically, if
yeah,
you
I was like, ah,
attend everything.
shoot.
Sorry.
That sucks.
So I just wanted to point that out because, like,
Mhm,
again, Liz is not becoming an entirely different person. She's still doing the things that she feels is the best way for her to serve her clients. But there's like some broadening of perspective to say you can serve people without there being that immediate direct connection with somebody that you value. And that doesn't mean you get
mhm,
rid of it. It's just like, how do we create some structure in the offer so that you're serving a more diverse type of client.
mhm,
And it's not
mhm.
just the people who are like, I need to be on the call or bust. Right. So
Yeah.
I think it's as we're kind of like, getting into the memory banks here of like what changes you made. It's like, oh yeah, that's really funny because we didn't have this framework to work from last year, but it's like retroactively like, oh, I can see why that change would be so valuable for somebody whose orientation is let's get on a call live and talk it through, and then you're like artificially limiting who can join or who's going to benefit
Mhm,
because not everybody either wants to or can attend the calls. Like there's going to be people who
mhm.
literally do not want to come to a live call
Yeah.
and they want to
Oh,
be
yeah.
able to like fast forward through the recording, right? And so it's like just
Totally.
being able to see there's other ways of consuming this
Mhm.
container, participating in this container, and it doesn't only have to be the way I like to do things.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like everyone who builds a business, I think you're just going to be bent towards like, well, this is how I would want it to be. So I'm
Mhm.
just going to do that. And I think that's why you need someone to sort of like help you see other ideas. And some of those changes were really hard for me. I was like, okay, well, am I even going to be able to sell this if I don't really think that that's going to be the most valuable thing? And so it did take a bit of a leap of like, ooh, it's outside of my comfort zone, but I also like, I think this is the way forward.
Hmm.
Before I started to see, no, this really works. So I don't
Yeah.
second guess it anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting because maybe initially you thought that is the value. And if somebody's not getting it, then this isn't valuable. And so
Right.
that can be like, well, how am I supposed to sell this if this isn't what I'm selling?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the nice thing is now you have the flexibility so that the value can change depending on who you're talking to and what their constraints are. So it's not like you got rid of that as a valuable element because it is valuable. And for some people, it's very valuable, but it's not the only thing now that's creating value. And it's not only for the people who show up live and get coaching. So I do think
Mhm.
that, we didn't plan to talk about that, but I do think that's a really, really important point to not just say, well, this is how I would want it to be done. So this is how I'm going to create it and just hope that everybody else likes it this way too. Now, I will say the caveat is that doesn't mean like, I don't think you're doing anything that's like bending over backwards, going over your boundaries or anything. It's just like you're just being creative about how to repurpose what you're already doing, what you like doing, and making it more accessible to a different type of person.
Mhm.
Versus if it was like someone's like, well, I don't really like group calls. Can you just do all of my calls one on one? Like that would probably be something where you're like, that's not aligned with my life as a mom of two kids. Like, not really trying to do like a full one-on-one business here. So we're not talking about accommodating everybody's desires. We're talking about being creative about how do you expand your reach for different people without, having to bend over backwards to serve.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. If anything, it's actually like feels like it's less work, right? Because it's like I'm not having to add in lots of one-on-one calls to accommodate those people that couldn't make the live calls. I'm just like, here's the recording. I'm
Hmm.
showing up this time. You can join live if you want, and if not, here you go.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Is there anything else you feel like worked well in 2025 that you want to reinforce in 2026? So we're going to transition a little into the strategy for Liz here, but is there
Mhm.
anything that comes to mind that you're like, that was great, I need to do more of that, or that worked really well, let me double down on that?
Well, we created a sales funnel that didn't exist before. So that gave me a lot of confidence just in like filling my email list with actual people that are in like the ideal clients, I suppose. So yeah, I made a free training and I run ads to it. And again, that was a big kind of thing for me. Like I feel like I did not have the confidence to run ads before. So that was really big. And then, which I do still think I need to tweak, but it's like the foundation's there. It's there. I
Mhm.
have I have people coming into my world consistently without me having to like go out and find them and like cold DM them. So that's
Mhm.
amazing.
Mhm.
And then I also made some hiring. Like I hired a VA and I hired a nutrition assistant. So like that was huge as well. Just recognizing that my capacity is only so much. My daughter went to kindergarten this year and it was like, okay, I have like half the amount of hours in the week to work now that I have to do the driving and
Oh,
whatnot
you
for
have
that.
less. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I know it's like a bit you think it's gonna be easier when they get older. More time, but not so much for me. Anyways, so I was like, I just can't do this amount of work in this amount of hours. And so I need to focus where I'm most effective. So that's felt amazing just to feel supported and just feel like I have a team of people that like they can do the tasks that I don't need to be doing. Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, and so so we're basically talking about hiring help, delegating, which I think for someone who's the consistent CEO, maybe your tendency is like, I can just do it myself. I'll take care of it. If it's not something that you can't do, you'll find a way. But
Yeah.
you obviously hit a phase of life that you're like, that's not an option anymore. So we got to do something different. And then with the sales funnels, we can talk about this because I was mentioning to Liz before we hit record that the structure and the bones of the funnel are in place. And now it's more about let's look at the messaging and see, okay, like what needs to change. Because talk us through what was your original sales process before you had any sales thing to send them to, or like a video to show them, or emails to go out? Like, what were you doing to actually make a sale previously?
I was doing a lot on Instagram stories. So I was just doing a lot of, and this it's the hard thing was that it worked to a certain degree, and it still does work to a certain degree, right? So, but it's just like to get past that level, I needed some other support, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was just putting out call to actions. Hey, my program's open. I have this many spots. Da, 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 this is what I can help you with, and DM me basically. And I was getting, and then, I was also growing. I had like a few lead magnets that would grow my list. And I would send like us one email every week. And it would sometimes have, like, hey, sign up. Most of the time it did, but not always.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like a weak, sales mechanism. So mostly it was DMs and referrals, but I didn't have a way to, I wasn't running ads really. So
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really getting anybody that wasn't organically in my audience or
Mm-hmm.
like in my network, I guess.
Yeah. So to me, it sounds like it's not that what you were doing wasn't working. It's just if you stopped doing it, things would just dry up probably. There was nothing working for you behind the scenes to continue the communication with people. And it was like, if you want to make money this month, you better be posting on stories
Oh
every
yeah,
single day for the entire month.
totally. Totally. Well, and I also find that it's like, because I do that sort of all the time anyways. Like I'm pretty consistent
You're pretty
with,
consistent.
with it. So I kind of never realized that. But I think also that having this extra layer of like automations and a video training and whatnot, like it just increases people's time with me in the sense of
Mm-hmm.
like the amount of time they're exposed to me and my thought process and my methodology and blah blah blah. And so I think that that has made a big difference in how like somebody who might be just exposed to me, it's like speeding up the process, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Liz is talking about a concept called time on brand, which is something that I'm definitely wanting to talk more about this year because just with all the changes to social media, and not even just social media, but like people's not only their attention span, but their desire to be consuming tons of short form content. I think bad AI has kind of like caused a bit of a problem for things like Instagram because you could be looking at stuff and be like, is this bear is like hugging somebody. I'm pretty sure this is AI video, right? And so like you start to have this skepticism around, are you even watching something that's real? And then of course there's all the like, super intense world stuff that people have very strong opinions about. And I think it's created this environment where for a lot of people, they're kind of like tapped out when it comes to short form. And not to say that short form doesn't work, it definitely does. But if you're only relying on your short form content to get all of the messaging across and hoping that they're sticking around on your profile long enough, then it's like you're kind of asking the platform to do a lot. So my opinion about short form in 2026 and probably moving forward is that it's a discovery tool and it's a action taking tool, but it's not something that's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting of the time on brand piece. And I got to look up the stats. I was just talking with a client about this like an hour ago. Um, the amount of time somebody needs to spend with you before they're going to spend a higher ticket price point has increased. I think it's like up to like 9 hours now that they need to be exposed to you to be able
Mhm.
to be ready to make a purchase. Now, that's not everybody. Some people can make decisions faster. Some people make decisions slower. And if you also tend to attract the more slower action takers because maybe that's just your vibe is attracting those type of people, then they need more time with you than someone who's more like, fast action taker. So, not to say that we don't want to also optimize for fast action takers, but we need like something that people can have like a slower, deeper connection with you and not just be looking at your Instagram content. So I know that you have a podcast. So the
Mhm.
podcast is great for that.
Mhm.
And not everybody listens to a podcast, right? So the email piece coming in and having more emails that can drive sales, I think is really helpful. And then adding that video that can really show somebody your actual methodology. Because even with a podcast, I don't know if I don't know how you approach podcasting. I maybe could guess based on how you approach content creation for social media. But I feel like with podcasting, a lot of times it's like, this is just a topic that I'm interested about that we're talking about today versus having a really condensed structure where you're like helping somebody understand how you solve the problem that they have and what result they'll get when they work with you and exactly how you do that. Like that's not something that you're going to typically be doing on every single podcast episode that you do. So even if somebody listens to your podcast, are they going to then understand what you can do for them, how you help them in the way that a VSL can?
Mm-hmm.
Depends on what your focus is. But like I said, if I was going to guess, you might be the kind of person that's like, this is what I feel like talking about on today's show. And it doesn't mean it's bad content. It just means it may not be as effective for sales as something that is like a condensed sales focused asset that you have.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, and I also share my podcast with a naturopathic doctor. And so it's not just me. So it's not as, yeah, it's definitely more of a like community building and, you know, relationship forming kind of, it is time spent with my audience, but yeah, it's definitely not optimized for like buyers, I would say.
Mhm. Yeah. And again, this kind of goes back to this is a strength that Liz has is community building, relationship building, being consistent. I mean, running a podcast takes a lot of consistency. So like that all works in your favor. And then the breakdown is this optimized for sales? And if, especially if it's a co-hosted podcast, you may not even have the option to optimize it for your business. So that's where having those assets that you can point people to, or they can find when they go to connect with you further,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to help really narrow down the messaging into what they need to know to make a purchase versus just what they
Yeah.
need to know to trust you as a person. Okay. Let's in the last bit of time, I actually have not been paying attention to how long we've been recording, so this might be a longer one, but I did want to look at Liz's messaging a little bit in her more recent content to just brainstorm a little bit about how she can bring some more boldness and more decisiveness and action oriented language into her content. Because again, if her tendency is let's connect, let's have fun, let's be friends, can be great for getting followers, can be difficult for making sales. So I did want to do like a little mini audit. If you're listening to the audio, I'm going to be sharing my screen. So feel free to pop over to YouTube for this episode to see the actual screen, but hopefully I'll be able to describe things well enough. I've never done this before. I've never done a live, not live, I guess you guys are listening to the recording, but I've never done a Instagram audit on audio. So it could be a little bit of an experiment, but we'll see what happens. This is me being a decisive CEO to be like, let's just try it and see how it goes. So, okay. So as far as Liz's content is concerned, she's got a couple of reels that have gone quite viral. Like one of them has 12.5 million views, which is astonishing. And we were kind of joking about how the heck would she monetize? It's like a video about making a dish that she likes that her family doesn't like. And it's what is it enchiladas? Am I like an
Yeah.
enchilada bake?
Yeah.
Like, how do I monetize this? And I was like, I don't know, start a enchilada sauce company. Like, I'm not sure how you monetize that for weight loss specifically. But the nice thing is it's still getting eyeballs on her stuff. So it's not completely useless. It's just that particular. And honestly, I think a lot of viral content does not always work for sales. I do have a client who had a viral reel this past week or so that is optimized for sales, which is awesome, but that's not usually how virality works. So usually virality is like, I feel like I'm seen and this is funny and this is, oh my gosh, me too, you know, versus being like, let me go buy something. Right. But all of that to say, more recently, I'm just going to look at, do you care if I look at the more low performing stuff as far
Yeah,
as
no,
like
go for
the
it.
audit is concerned? Because there's a mix, right? Like there's some stuff that's got a lot of views and likes, and then there's some stuff that's less. And sometimes we can learn more from the things that didn't perform, even because it's like, okay, what would we change about this? So I'm just going to look at this one carousel that says things I can't promise you as a weight loss nutritionist for moms. Just right off the bat, the hook is a little, I don't want to say off-putting, but it's like you can't promise me this, so why do I want to read about it? There's probably a
Okay.
lot of things you can't promise me. Like, why do I care?
Right.
Right. So, like, I get that you're trying to, I mean, you say weight loss nutrition is for moms. So, I mean, there is some level of clarity on the niche there, but saying things I can't promise you, my mind immediately is like, okay, so why do I care? Right.
Mm.
So, if like just the different angle of here's what I refuse to promise my clients, or like just something a little bit more spicy than just things I can't promise you. Cause it's just like even saying I would never promise you this as a weight loss nutritionist, like even just that angle, making it a little bit more bold already increases curiosity. Does that make sense as
Mm.
far as it being like
Mhm.
it's the same exact
Mhm.
concept, but you're just making it like, why does somebody care about this?
Yeah, just increasing the curiosity.
Yeah. So like if you say things I can't promise you, okay, but if you say I would never promise you this as a weight loss nutritionist, like, oh, what would she never promise? Like I'm curious to find out what is it, right?
Mm.
So we're just adding curiosity, a little bit of polarity to the way that you've stated that.
Yeah.
And then it looks like you're getting into things. Okay, so I'll just read what she has on the carousel. So it says that you'll never have an off week, that you'll never have the urge to emotionally eat, that your family will eat every healthy meal you cook, that you'll always have access to the food that suits your goals. But that's okay. I'm on the next slide. But that's okay because it's not my job to make sure everything goes smoothly. So as I'm reading through this, my brain, and I'm being critical because we're doing an audit, but my brain is just like, okay, who cares?
Mm.
Like, I don't know why I care that it's not your job to make sure everything goes smoothly. Like, you haven't hooked me in with any reason to care about what you're saying.
Mm.
And that might mean it's coming, but now we're 3 slides deep and it's
Yeah.
like, what are the odds that somebody's going to like give you the benefit of the doubt to keep scrolling? Especially when there's some Bad Bunny controversy to be talking about. Like, that would be much more interesting than what Liz is
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
about her philosophy on
Things that she
nutrition.
can't promise. Yeah.
Right.
Fair.
Okay. So then it says, my job is to help you respond to the things that aren't in your control in a way that supports your goals as often as possible. Kind of like, I don't really know what we're talking about anymore. Like, respond to the things that are in your control. Like, I kind of get it given that I have a nutrition background, but we're kind of getting into this like, now I really don't know what is relevant to me at this point because the language is kind of vague. So, again,
Mm.
we're kind of like moving
I'm
away
trying
from.
to tie it back to that slide where it's like, if you have an off day, or if you have an emotional eating, like those are things you can't control. I'm helping you
Mhm.
respond to. That was
Mhm.
my thought for
Yeah.
context.
Yes. And
It doesn't make sense.
well, and that's the hard part is like in your brain, it does make sense. In your brain, you
Yeah.
know where you're going. And so this is where content creation can get challenging because it's like you're the expert. You know why this matters. You know why responding to things you can't control is so important for weight loss. But the way you're writing this assumes I think it's important too.
Hmm.
And so we really need to be thinking about what does my ideal client think is important? What do they care about? What's going to pique their interest? And not rely on them to have the same level of awareness as we do because they don't. If they had the same level of awareness that we do, they wouldn't need us. So we want to be mindful about not assuming they care about what we care about. I will say, like, this is probably, especially the people who are the more like people oriented side that are like, I really just want to help people. I want to, like, give them good information. I want to be supportive. You can kind of run into the trap of like just wanting to share something that's helpful that is helpful versus
Hmm.
sharing something that's designed to get a sales conversation happening. Right. I mean, we kind of talked about this before. So in your mind, you're like, oh, this is really helpful to know that you don't have to be consistent. You don't have to be, you don't have to be perfect to get your result. But again, we're already 4 slides deep and me, the person who's not you, is like, why do I care about this? I don't care about this. Like, tell me how to lose
Hmm.
weight, Liz.
Hmm.
So, it is something where we have to be like ideally looking at our content as what's the emotional response that the person's going to have to this. And it doesn't mean you nail it every time. It just means that it's like, am I speaking to something that they're already looking for, or am I trying to make them care about something they probably don't really care about? It's kind of like the
Hmm.
consistency club thing, right?
Hmm.
It's like, you
Hmm.
know, that's important. Do they know that's important? Do they care about that? Are they going to spend $1,500 on consistency? No. Are they going to spend $1,500 to learn how to respond to the things that aren't in their control as often as possible? I mean,
Mhm.
maybe somebody who's already working with you is like, oh, actually, that's super valuable. But somebody who's new to your world and is just like, I'm tired. I'm, not fitting in my jeans. My kids won't eat what I cook. Like, I'm so annoyed. They're not like, man, if I could just respond to the things I can control in a way that supports my goals. Like, and I'm being a little bit silly here, but it's reality, right? Like we have to think, does the person who's in the problem that is looking for a solution care about what I'm talking about right now? Um,
Mm.
this says because success with weight loss doesn't come from having perfect circumstances. It comes from your ability to return to the path and keep walking it despite the challenges of regular life. That's a little bit more interesting, but we're also 5 slides deep here. So, like, people may not even have really gotten that far to like start being like, oh, yeah, that is an interesting perspective to have. So, this could be something that if you were going to reuse this particular angle, I would try to get it sooner and
Mhm.
lead with that curiosity hook. So like,
Right.
you could say something like, "Hey, if you're waiting for your circumstances to be perfect to be able to lose weight, you're never going to lose weight. Here's why." And then it's like being, the people who are successful losing weight are able to do it when their circumstances are the craziest. So learning how to
Mhm.
lose
Mhm.
weight when your life is crazy is actually what's going to help you be successful, not waiting until your circumstances are perfect, right? So like that's off the cuff. I'm sure it could be better, but it's like you're showing them why they should care about this perspective that you're taking.
Mhm.
Um Okay, so it says, so if you've been feeling discouraged because life keeps getting in the way of your goal, trust me when I say you don't need a different life. Next slide says you need support to make the changes happen, even though there are obstacles. The obstacles aren't going anywhere. You become better at handling them. So I do feel like we're starting to get into a more interesting narrative. It's still a little bit like I would think you're preaching to the choir on the people who are going to care as much about this, but it's
Right.
still a little bit more interesting than some of the other stuff that was in there. Health coaching is the key way I help moms make sustainable changes.
I know you're not gonna like this.
If you're
Okay, it was
interested in
6 in
that,
the morning, Laura. It was 6 in the morning. I was throwing it together.
no excuses, Liz. Your life doesn't have to be perfect to make good content. In fact, your ability to make good content when life is busy is what's going to lead to your successful business.
Touche. Touche.
I'm kidding. I would not be posting content at 6 a.m. Nothing good happens in in my brain at 6 a.m. So, okay. So, I know Liz doesn't need me to rub her nose in this, but saying health coaching is the key way I help moms make sustainable changes. Very boring, like sustainable changes, health coaching. Like, why do I care about you being the health coach? Like, just health coaching is like such a generic way to describe what you do. And it
Mhm.
makes you sound like everybody else. And then making
Mhm.
sustainable changes. What changes? Why do I care about these changes? What does sustainable mean? Like, there's just too much vagueness that does not
Mhm.
give any sort of emotional connection. If you're interested in that approach, DM me curious to learn more about the Nourished Mom program. So, interested in what? Health coaching? What approach am I interested in?
Yes.
And then DM me curious, again, not to like add insult to injury, but I think this is a really good example of like how things can go off the rails. Curious is very non committal as a
Mhm.
keyword. So, even the keywords you're choosing can affect the energy that somebody's bringing to the conversation. I would assume nobody DM'd you curious about this because they probably were like, I'm not really that curious. So
Nobody even
moving
saw it.
on. Probably nobody landed on this page. But saying DM me curious, it's just leaving this very like, I don't know, I'm curious. Maybe this is something
Mm.
that I'd be curious about. I'm not gonna like do anything about it, but maybe you can talk to me for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Versus
Can
it,
can I ask a question about that though?
yes.
Because and again, this is going back to like the way that we interact with things maybe influences how we create, but it's
Mhm,
like I don't want to be cornered into a sales DM conversation. So
mhm,
if it's more like, oh, I just kind of want to know like what the program is like and how much it costs and
mhm,
all that kind of stuff, like I would DM curious, but not
mhm.
like I don't want you to now sell me. Do you know what I mean? Like I kind of wanted to leave the door open for people who are like, I'm not really like ready to buy. But I
Yeah.
guess that's like this is creating content for those people who are not ready to buy. So then how do I shift that, right?
Yes. And do you want to be DMing with somebody who's not ready to make a purchasing decision?
Well, but what about those people who like actually do just want to know what the program is?
Do you want to be DMing with them, or would you rather send them to a resource that you've created that can give that information?
Yeah. But so you're saying link to the resource in here instead of saying, hey, DM me this.
You could do a DM. I'm not saying don't invite DMs in your direction. I'm asking, do you want to be in a DM conversation with somebody who's just curious about what you do and wants more information, but isn't in a buying phase? Like, do you want to
Yeah.
be having a lot of DM conversations back and forth with somebody who's like, I just am curious about what you do. I'm not really looking to buy anything right now. Like, what's your
Well,
gut
no.
instinct? Do you want your
No,
DMs full of
I'm
that?
like I also like would rather be in a DM conversation with someone who's curious about what I do that might eventually buy than not be in a DM conversation with anyone who's, you know what I
True.
mean?
Yes. And
So,
somebody can DM you to get a link to a resource where
yeah.
they can learn more. So about like your VSL, for example, if it's like DM me curious if you want to learn like exactly how I help my clients
Hmm.
lose 15 pounds and you know whatever the I forget what the timeline is. And then you're sending them the video. You're not like, let's have a, 5 day
Yeah, yeah.
long back and forth
Yeah,
DM
totally.
conversation. So the idea of like having sales touch points for slower buyers or more tentative buyers is not bad. But you, again, it's kind of going back to the like, what are we optimizing for here? Are we
Hmm. Hmm.
optimizing for you having dozens of sales or dozens of DM back and forths with somebody who's like, well, I was never interested in buying with you in the first place. So why are you trying to sell me something? Like,
Hmm.
that's not the best use of your time as a busy mom who's only got a few hours a day to be working. If
Hmm.
they're going to send you a DM, I mean, you can use DM automations where that word curious triggers a response. You never even have to be in the DM to have that response. And if you are manually responding, it's not a back and forth. It's like, hey, so glad you're interested.
Hmm.
Here's the link to my training on how I do this for my clients. If you're interested in like chatting more about how we can work together, let me know. Like you can still
Hmm.
be, you don't have to be this like up people's butts. Like I like DM me this if you're ready to buy right now. And like
Yeah.
there's no like research being done at all. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to be doing that. I mean, I do think it would help to have a little bit of that because there will be a percentage of your audience that will buy quickly if you just invite them to
Hmm.
do it instead of being like, if you're curious, like,
Hmm.
maybe send
Hmm.
me a DM. It's like I don't have time to be DMing someone to just be curious about something, right? So
Yeah.
me being
Yeah.
the decisive type, I'm like, I don't want to just be like chatting with somebody. Like, if I want to talk to them about working with them, like, I will have that conversation. But like, please don't try to get me in your DMs to just like chat. Right. So,
Mm.
different people will have different, desires for how that communication works. But that's the point of the VSL is to give them a low risk way for them to learn about what you do without them having to be like, oh, she's gonna like back me into a corner here and like try to sell me something.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, we don't want that to be the experience that somebody's having. So if I was gonna do this differently, I would not say health coaching. I would say, what's your like unique mechanism that sets you apart or is different or is like, the way that you do things that's different than the way that they've been taught to do things. Help moms, what do they get? They lose X number of pounds in X number of days or whatever, right? It's like that's
Mhm.
what they want. They don't want sustainable changes. They want weight loss in a time frame. And then
Mhm.
to learn more about how I help my clients do this, DM me curious and I'll send you my free training on, the three biggest mistakes you're making trying to lose weight as a mom of little kids, right? I don't remember what the exact title of your training is, but do you see how it's like you're just adding the clarity on why they should care, why they should take that action. You're not saying you have to buy something. You're not being like, let's talk so I can like, beat you over the head with
Mhm.
my offer. It's, hey, if this sounds like what you're looking for, your next step is to check out this video. And you're
Mhm.
giving them the opportunity to learn about what you do and not be in the DMs nonstop with people. Like, I mean, because you said it yourself. One of the issues you were having with the DMs is people would be like, oh, I'm not really actually interested in buying anything from you. I just wanted to like talk to you and I love what you do. Right. So,
Mhm.
like, I don't think you want more of that.
No. I have a question
Yes.
because
Raise your hand. Yes. Liz, what is
sometimes
your question?
so I do send people to my VSL a lot. Like a lot of times my call to action will be like, yes, DM me this to DM me lose 15 to get my free training, to, get access to blah blah blah, to teach moms how to nourish mom method, how can you can lose weight. Like I do that definitely. I
Mhm.
didn't do that with this post, but I feel very like it every like, if I'm posting every single day and my call to action is every single time it's like the exact same, I almost feel like that's why I switch it up sometimes. Like I don't know if it's just me getting bored or me feeling like I just, I want to give people the option to just message me directly about something, or I don't know. Like, what's your opinion on that? Like doing the same exact call to action every post.
I mean, the big picture is that nobody's paying attention to what you're doing as much as you are.
Yeah.
And that repetition is, I mean, they say repetition is the mother of mastery. So like you doing things over and over trains people to think a certain way or to like expect certain things from you. But it's also like 10% of your audience is seeing any given one of your posts. So like what are the odds that they even saw you in the last week show up?
Mhm.
So like
Mhm.
just remember that you're seeing something every day. They're seeing it once in a while. And they don't remember what the last call to action was that they saw in the last post that you did. So that would
Mhm.
be like from a big picture, you're probably like you're too close to it to really see that that doesn't matter to the
Mhm.
functionality of your Instagram feed. That said, you can switch things up and every call to action should have a point. So if you're like, if I want somebody to DM me to have a conversation, what do I want that conversation to be about? Do I want that conversation to be like, let's just like chit chat about something fun and like, you're my mom friend? Probably not, right? Do I want that person to DM me and be like, can you tell me everything you do? And like, I'm not actually going to buy anything right now, but just like for the future, can you just like give me your entire sales pitch like in the DMs and then I'll like think about it and never talk to you again?
Mhm. Mhm.
Probably not what you want to optimize for, right? So if you're asking for a DM that would lead to an actual conversation, because not every, like if you're using a automation, you don't have to have every DM response set up to match an automation.
Mhm.
If the DM is like, I want somebody to DM me because they're ready to change this, they're ready to take action, they're ready to work with me, then like that's great. Like make the call to action be about if you're ready to get help with this, if you're ready to get this result, that's a faster action point. Now,
Mhm.
somebody could have been following you for 6 months and now today is the day that they're ready to do something, right? So
Mhm.
don't assume that the only people that are going to respond to those very action oriented calls to action are just the people who happen to be fast decision makers. You've been around for 3 years. You can have somebody like I had people join NBA in January. Like I told them, this is the last chance. I'm literally closing it. And one person joined who's like, I've been in your world for 10 years. And I'm like, this is now or never. I'm like, okay, great. Welcome aboard. So it's one of these things where it's like, in your experience, you're like, ooh, this is kind of fast. This is like asking a lot, but somebody could have been here for 3 years. And
Mhm.
like again, today's the day that they just something clicked and they're like, you know what? I'm ready. Right. So you want to optimize for that as much as you optimize for the person who found you a week ago and was like, oh my gosh, she's speaking my language. Let's do this. But that doesn't change the direct results oriented, do this if you want this outcome and let's work together kind of call to action. That's the kind of call to action that if I was going to be DMing to sell, that's what I would be focusing on. It's like I only want to be talking to somebody who's like, this is a sales conversation and they're not afraid to
Mhm.
have a sales conversation.
Mhm.
The other types of DM type of calls to action can be for the nurturing process, but it's not you
Yeah.
manually nurturing them in the DMs. It's you
Mhm.
sending them a resource, whether that's a lead magnet, a VSL, a podcast episode, like anything that you've created. It doesn't have to be the same thing every time, but you're
Mhm.
sending them something that's furthering the relationship and training them on how you do things, educating them on what makes you different, how you approach things. And yeah, some people may take a while to make a purchase decision, but you're not in the DMs giving someone your like full spiel about how you can help them, being like, yeah, like this is great. And then they're like, okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know. And then they just never respond. Cause that's, I don't know about you, but that would literally make me want to like throw my phone out a window if that was all the DMs I was having was like, I'm just curious. Can you like tell me about you? And then they never, it's almost like being on a dating app and being like, a guy's like, tell me more about yourself. And you're like spending all this time chatting with them. And then you're like, so do you want to like go on a date? And then they just never answer. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Why did I do that? Like, it's such a waste of time. Right. So yeah. So I think when you're thinking about your calls to action, you can mix them up and different calls to action can be beneficial for different purposes. But we're coming back to that idea of it's like, there's an intention behind what you're asking people to do. And the amount of you that is participating in that action step should be as close to the sale as possible. That makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's funny because you're like, oh, why would I do that? And I'm like, well, because I like talking to people.
Well, that's why I was pushing you a little bit to be like, listen, if you had like
Do I
100,
really want that? No,
is that
I
what you
don't.
really want?
I don't.
Yeah.
But
I'm not
like,
saying you can't enjoy talking to people, but wouldn't
Mhm.
it be more fun to talk to somebody who was like about to buy something from you?
Yeah. I mean, my yes, like my business owner self is like, yes. But I don't know. I kind of just like I hate closing the door on someone if they're like interested in what I'm doing, but that's beside the point. Your point is
Mhm.
taken. I understand.
Well,
The
and I'm not saying
curious,
you don't have to tell them to GTFO your DMs if they're not ready to buy something, right? Like I think don't make it mean the opposite, right? If I'm saying don't optimize for conversations that go nowhere, that doesn't mean throw people out if they don't buy right away. It just means don't set your business up that you're literally, because again, if we're looking
inviting
at,
that. Yeah.
you're asking for it.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
literally like, you're going to get what you ask for. And if you're asking for conversations with people that are not ready to buy, that don't really want to have a sales conversation, that just want you to like
Chat
personally tell
with them.
them
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
and that's where I think just getting back to what is important to you and what matters to you and why are you on this platform in the first place. Yes, there's connection, yes, there's relationships, yes, there's community, and that's all awesome. But if I just like gave you $100 million and like said you don't need to get clients anymore, like do you think you would be as consistent and like focused on creating content like this for social media? Or would you
No.
just be like, here's
Yeah.
my kids, here's my cat, here's my like, look at my here's my jet,
Yeah.
here's my yacht, I don't know if $100 million gets you a jet, but do you see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
your primary goal with Instagram is to run your business.
Mhm.
And if you really need a creative connection outlet, like start a different account or join a book club or do something where
Totally.
that itch is scratched. That's
Well, and I
not.
think that it's like a process, right? Because I feel like from where I started from, it's night and day. Like I used
Oh
to
yeah.
share
Yeah.
so much more about like my life and my kids
Mhm.
and like, just things I was doing and things every meal, and now I'm kind of like, well, why am I doing that? Like that doesn't really get me
Yeah.
anywhere. But I'm still in this like habit of making content a certain way. And yeah, these like unconscious things of like, oh, well, I don't want people to feel too cornered into a conversation. It's coming out, in the way that I'm messaging
Mhm.
things. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, because again,
It's
you're people oriented. And I know like when we had talked about the results, you said, well, I don't really feel like I have a hard time having hard conversations with people, but this
mhm,
actually would be an example of you struggling to have a hard conversation with somebody.
mm,
Because like, yes, it's a hard conversation to talk to somebody who's not ready to invest in changing their life. And that's what you're asking them to say that they're ready for. So it's
mhm,
kind of a more subtle way. You might be more comfortable with like difficult conversations with people who already have that buy-in into the relationship, like maybe your spouse, your kids, your friends, your
mhm,
family, like people that you're like, this is our relationship. Like speaking difficult things is part of how we maintain this relationship. But you may then, when you go talk to a stranger on the internet, be like, I don't have the relationship to like say something that might ruffle their feathers or,
Mhm.
make them uncomfortable. God forbid you invite them to work with you and you've made them like so uncomfortable, right? So I would just say, again, you don't have to switch into the like bro-tastic, like buy or get out of my DMs kind of
Mhm.
mentality,
Mhm.
but really just keeping that purpose of Instagram at the forefront to say, like, does this help me make sales? And if not, like, you're not here to be everybody's best friend, right? Like, I know you like to be friends with people, you like to connect with people. I think that is something that, is a very healthy desire. And I want to make sure that you're not prioritizing that at the expense of your business.
Mhm.
Because yeah, maybe like on a day-to-day basis, it's not the end of the world, but like let's extrapolate. Like if I doubled your business tomorrow and this was how you were participating in the sales experience, you'd have to like be on your phone at dinner time. You'd have to be like working after the kids go to bed. Like the things that you're creating right now, if like I just want you to think about if you like 10x that, would that be acceptable to you anymore? Would it be acceptable that every person that wants to DM you is like getting a DM conversation, right? If there was
Yeah.
10 times the volume. And I
Yeah,
think as a
yeah.
mom, you know, especially with your time being more limited now than it used to be, like you have to go first and create the energetic container for the growth. And if you're operating in a way that is in the size, like it's like the goldfish, right? Like if you're operating within the goldfish bowl, that's like you're comfortable
Mhm.
at that size, you don't want to ruffle any feathers, you don't want to like be mean to people, you're going to stay in that goldfish bowl. That's your size, right? And the goldfish grows to the size of the bowl. So if you
Mhm.
want the container to be bigger, if you want the goldfish to be bigger, you have to create the container first. The goldfish isn't going to grow out of the
Mhm.
container. The goldfish grows into the container. So for your social media use, if you can think about, would I be doing this if my business was 5 to 10 times the size, if I had 5 to 10 times the incoming DMs, if I had 5 to 10 times the clients, would I be operating like this in my business? If it's a heck no, I would hate that, then that's an indication that we don't want to be growing that way. Right. And that
Mhm.
doesn't mean there isn't room for some hustle or some like, getting things off the ground. But if it's like you're deciding, I want to be super friendly and gentle and like, I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. And so I'm just going to let them DM me to like get my spiel on my program directly from me in my time, you probably would not want to do that for, 100 people a day, right?
Mhm.
Like that would be a hard pass, right? So I think it can be helpful to think about, is what you're doing to grow your business the thing you want to, is that the container you want your
Yeah.
business to grow
Yeah.
within?
Is that
And
how
if
you wanna continue?
yeah,
But
because
yeah.
sometimes stagnation in your business is actually protective, whether you believe it's a spiritual protection or you believe it's like your nervous system protecting you, like you have to be mindful of, would I actually be benefited by growing what I'm doing right now?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
sometimes it's like, actually, that wouldn't be the way I would choose to, you know, multiply this business, right? So I think
Mhm.
that's something that can help give you a little bit more purpose behind setting boundaries or creating some uh not rules, but like making it so that you're not just available for anybody that wants to talk to you about anything, right? Because it's like, yeah, it can work right now when things are smaller, but we don't want to stay small. We don't want you to stay in this current size. And so growing it means create the energetic boundaries of a bigger business, and the
Mhm.
business can grow into it. Does that make sense?
Mhm. 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 Yeah, for sure. And it's again, it's that like going back to what's comfortable and like continually pushing yourself. Oh yeah, like it's not that every post I do is that way, but then it's like I'm just very it's very like, oh, I'm just gonna get some content out. I'll just go back to what I like. So it is that like it's that comfort zone of like it's even like, okay, this works, quote unquote. Is it really working that well?
Mhm.
Like that's the question. But
Yeah.
um,
And what's
yeah.
works, right? Like works could be, oh,
Right.
like the enchilada thing, like 12 million views. most people would be like stoked if they had a post that had that many views. And to your point, you're like, how do I monetize this? It's not working directly for the thing you want it to work for, which that doesn't mean that you
Yeah.
have to delete it. It's just like we need to think about what is the definition of something working,
Mhm.
and are you optimizing for that? Because in some ways I would rather you post less frequently and post more boldly and
Yeah.
directly than
Yeah.
just I just need to put some content up, so let me put something up that's like vanilla and confusing and not getting anyone's attention, and like just, it's
Mhm.
just like that's not benefiting anybody, let alone you.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah. So, and being the consistent CEO, it's in your bones to be like, I gotta be consistent. I gotta show up. I gotta do it, versus being like, let me pause and think, why am I doing this? What is the purpose? Is this getting me sales? And if
Mhm.
not, kind of like what we just did with this audit, which, Liz is very used to my directness. So it's like, here's what we need to change and here's why it's not working. And that doesn't mean that you do it like this all the time. Like I said, I wanted to find a post that I'm like, this one does not look like it performed very well. Let's maybe
Mhm.
figure out why. I'm sure you've done other posts that have done better, that have kind of followed those guidelines more effectively. And so I just want more of that to happen for you, so that you have more momentum, that the right people are coming into your world, that the right people are having conversations at the right stage of readiness to actually buy
Mhm.
from you, and that you feel like the work you're putting in is getting the reward that you actually want, which is financial growth and clients, right? So,
Mhm.
and that's not selfish. Like you're not running a charity here, you're running a business. You have limited time. Your time needs to matter for what you're doing with your business, and the way you show up with your content can be a reflection of how seriously you value your time and how, willing you are to accommodate other people at your expense. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I definitely struggle with that, like, pause, try to be strategic. I'm so much more like, "Well, just get it out. Just get something out," you know? So that's
Yeah.
definitely a
Which,
growth area for me.
well, and the strategic CEO is the person who's more task oriented and slower. So they're the kind of person who will overthink something and then like not post for 3 months. That's not helpful
Mhm.
either, right? And then,
Mhm.
like I said, for me, being task oriented and fast, I'm like, I'll just like pump out a bunch of content and then be like, I don't need to do this right now. Let me just like disappear. So everybody's got their tendencies as far as how they show up and what they think about, and how they grow their business. And so you have the benefit of relationship building, consistency, not blowing things up and, changing things before you've really given them a chance to work. And it's like, let's amp up the opinions, let's amp up the directness about what they should do because they're ready and you got to trust that they're
Mhm.
ready.
Mhm.
Let's be more bold about claiming what your genius is, what you're able to help people with, and not soften it to be like health coaching, because that's not really, all that you do, right? It's like there's more things that you do, and just, owning that, and not in like a, I'm better than everybody way, but in a, I want you to know why you should pay me kind of way. Like I want you to know that your money is being invested in somebody who is different, is unique, does have a effective program, is
Mhm.
gonna, help you get this transformation. Cause again, like weight loss for moms, for better or worse, is a very saturated niche. So better is people are looking for it. Worse is that you got a lot of competitors. And so I want you to be able to stand out in a way that's aligned with who you are, which is not like a, lose 30 pounds in the next 30 seconds kind of claim maker, but it's like, and there's like like go a little bit closer to the more strong,
Yeah.
directness about what you can help people with, right?
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think like social media, your VSL, like I know you made that VSL a few months ago. So like maybe just come at it with fresh eyes to be like, am I being as clear, direct?
Mhm.
Am I speaking to that person who's really ready, versus like, even in your head, are you talking to somebody who's ready versus are
Mhm.
you thinking, I need to talk to somebody who needs time? Even just
Mhm.
that little filter, it's like, if you're creating content with the belief that my audience needs a lot of time to buy something, again, you kind of get what you put out there,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying only speak to the people who are ready to buy something, but I want it to be at least 50-50. I want at least half your content to be like under the assumption that somebody's ready to do something, ready to take action, ready to move forward.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool. Well, Liz, thank you for being so open and willing to do this on a podcast. And so I hope that was helpful for you to just revisit, like, again, you've made so much progress. You're already like being way more structured with the content, more intentional. You were like, okay, I know where I'm sending people. I think you've done a really good job with creating the structure of the program that commands a higher price, that, systematizes the delivery. So that's all great. And I think for you right now, the big needle mover for 2026 is talk to your people like they're ready to go. Talk to them like they, as soon as they know that you can help them, they're interested. You don't need to protect their feelings about if they're not ready. Like, most of the time, somebody who's not ready is not going to be turned off by you speaking to the person who's ready, right? Like,
Yeah.
obviously, acting like they're an idiot for not buying is one thing, but saying like, hey, if this is you, if you're ready to go, if you're ready to do this, here's what to do next. Most people are not going to be like, oh, I'm not ready. And now I don't want to follow Liz because she, told me to do something that I
Yeah.
wasn't ready for. Right. So really just having that filter, honestly, that would probably be like the easiest first change, is like, just put the lenses on, like, take those glasses off, put the glasses on to say, my audience is ready. They want this. They're ready to take action. And then just notice if that changes how you show up in your content.
Okay, I'll keep you posted.
Please do. I would love to hear what changes. All right. Well, I hope that this was interesting and valuable for you guys, even if you're not a consistent CEO. Really, this is the direction that I'm taking the business, to start to help people understand their unique strengths and blind spots. Because at the end of the day, like, I feel like a lot of business coaches, first of all, a lot of them have either the decisive or the relational CEO type, which is the fast mover. You're either like this big, loud personality, or you're like me and like you just go and you do, and you're like, I don't need anyone to tell me what to do. So a lot of business coaches are like that for obvious reasons. And then they enroll people into their programs that are like, I need to slow down. I need to think about things. I don't want to just like pressure people. And then they get handed these cookie cutter templates about, here's how to make somebody buy and pressure them into buying from you. And, most of the people I work with are like, they never even tried it because they were so grossed out. They just couldn't. And then other people, they tried it, they hated it. And then they're like, well, maybe I can't be successful because that's not me. Right. So I think, I wanted to demo what this could look like to have somebody who has strengths that have served her well with growing her audience, building that connection, building that community, creating a ton of trust for people. And now we just need to get more of the leadership into the mix, where it's like you're showing up as somebody who's leading them to a transformation, not just somebody who's their bestie that's like, yeah, I get it too, girl, like, which is a easy thing to slip into if you're someone who is relationship focused.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you again, Liz. I really appreciate your gameness to play along with me. And I will definitely want to hear how this affects even just the content creation going forward. Because, you have all the structure in place that will help you grow and help you serve people better, help you make more money with less clients. And we're really just like, let's get you into more sales conversations.
Yeah, this was super helpful. You just can't see it sometimes with your own eyeballs. So I always appreciate you.
Well, thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll see you here next week on the Nurse CEO podcast. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nourished CEO podcast. And if this episode got you thinking about how you're actually wired to run your business, your next step is to take the CEO type quiz. Because here's the thing. Most of the business advice out there was built for someone specific. And if that someone isn't you, it doesn't matter how hard you work or how many strategies you implement. It's just never going to feel right, and it's never going to work as well as it should. Knowing your CEO type changes all of that. After you take the quiz, your results page will walk you through your natural strengths, your biggest blind spots, and a concrete game plan for your offers, messaging, sales, and even your calendar, all built around how you actually think and lead. Not generic advice, your specific direction. It takes about 5 minutes and it's completely free. The link is in the show notes, or you can go to lauraschoenfeld.com/quiz. And if you already know your type and this episode resonated with you, share the quiz with someone else who needs it. The right framework at the right time can completely change how someone sees their business. And honestly, that's exactly why I made this. All right, I'll see you next time on the Nourished CEO podcast.